Many wounds of war cannot be seen, and those are often the hardest to understand. Invisible wounds like post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury continue to haunt veterans for years. According to the most recent numbers from the Department of Veterans Affairs, an estimated 22 vets commit suicide every day. And that's more than we lose every day in combat. So an organization is working to shine a light on those wounds that to us are invisible.
Their time on the battlefield brings stories of heroism, sacrifice, and often devastation.
We were conducting a mission supporting Special Operations Forces just south of Fallujah, down by Amarilla. And the aircraft was hit with a surface-to-air missile. So I got the aircraft safe on the ground, and then we rolled end over end 3 times and caught on fire.
We were out on a mission, and we were going after a low-level bad guy. We had just missed him. We started to take fire, and what was a kind of a well-coordinated ambush. We had to fight our way out of there. It was an intense trip. We didn't end up finishing with everybody that we started with.
And then those warriors come home, ready to transition back into life with their friends and family. But all too often, those traumatic moments from war come home with them.
You're very agitated. You can't sleep. The demons come at night.
So you are in that heightened state of awareness. You're perceiving most things as a threat. You're going to a restaurant and you can't see anywhere but with the door to your front. You're scanning every room that you're in for possible ways it could go south, and then what your plan of action would be.
Both Coker and Marr felt the symptoms of PTSD and traumatic brain injuries, but their warrior nature caused them to push through, continuing to function on autopilot.
Prepare for mission, rehearsal, do the mission, come back, refit all your equipment.
In that community, however, negative stigma can surround this type of invisible wound. That often leads vets to ignore a brain injury or PTSD, which only makes symptoms worse. What begins as a sensitivity to light or sound can spread to the brain's emotional areas, then to the sleep center and more, until it becomes completely debilitating.
You get tired after a while. Just like, you don't give up, but you're like, doggone, what can I do now?
The only thing I could do was I just got to drink. And if I drink, I can probably quell the storm a little bit or be able to present myself at home without being an emotional wreck.
Both Marr and Coker tried to find medical help, leaving with a bag full of new medications, but no real solution. Then their paths took them to the Carrick Brain Center. Here at Carrick, they use revolutionary new technology to help figure out the root of the problem instead of just treating the symptoms.
When they're here all day. So they're doing detailed diagnostic testing, looking at eye movements and looking at balance and looking at, just how their memory is working. We take all of that information and then we sit down with them and we try to diagram out exactly what's going on.
One breakthrough that can only be found at Carrick is the Vertical Access Rotational Device, or OVARD.
This allows us to work on a larger area of brain. So if you have someone that has an injury in the right frontal area of their brain, we can spin them leftward and backward, and by doing that, we can then activate that area of the brain. The more brain that is being activated, the greater the chances are of recovery.
Marcus Luttrell, the former Navy SEAL depicted in the movie Lone Survivor, is one of Carrick's highest-profile success stories. Unfortunately, many vets struggling with a brain injury or PTSD never make it to a place like Carrick. Either they get discouraged by all the treatments that haven't worked, or they don't seek treatment at all, afraid it could cost them the job they love. For Marr, the risk of taking his illness back to battle was too great to ignore.
My thought was to get back onto the team, to get where I wasn't a liability. Turns out it wasn't that way, but I can't second guess that call for a second, because if I were to have something paralyzing happen to me in a bad situation, in this line of work, that means that guys don't come home and they don't see their kids.
The Carrick Brain Center hopes to raise awareness and money for treatment through the Invisible Vet campaign.
So oftentimes you encounter people in the street, at a restaurant, at the bank, people that have been in uniform that have either had a traumatic brain injury or they've been exposed to traumatic experiences that has led them down the road of post-traumatic stress, or unfortunately they have had both. Those are things that you can't see them. And so it's not like a broken arm, or it's not like an infected wound where you might need antibiotics or a cast or a surgical procedure.
It's a movement to not only open eyes, but erase the stigma around this kind of invisible wound, in the hopes that future generations of soldiers will feel comfortable coming forward for help.
Thank you for your service.
My pleasure. Wish I could have done more.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Dallas, Texas.